Hello, everyone. This is Kaushal Zubair with the KZ Show. My objective through this show is to transform lives by sharing ideas that inspire action. Today's show is about personal branding. Branding is a long form game, it's a reputation that it stays once you leave the room. Today we have our guests, Seema Dodd and Peter Rodriguez. Please welcome.
Thank you. Simadol. It's
Seema
Sima.
Dodd. Yes. All right. So, first of all, how would you define personal branding?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor to be in the Casey show and be alongside Seema to talk about this great topic of personal branding. My 2 cents on personal branding, I think I would need to define what is a personal brand first and then personal branding. In my view, personal brands are what people think of you when they think about you. So once that they have an idea about you in their minds, that's your personal branding. It lives there. And personal branding is the process to make that grow, expand, and do better things for you. That's what I think would be the easiest way to capture what it is for me.
Mhm. Sima, how would you
Absolutely.
define it?
Sure. To build on that, I define your personal brand as equal parts character, competence, and charisma. What you're known for, how you lean in and follow through, and the joy it is to work with you. We want to work with people we enjoy being around. So personal branding then becomes the behaviors, both online and off, that have people understand who you are, what you do, what makes you special. I believe personal brands are nothing if not aspirational. So we have to ask ourselves, how do we aspire to be known?
That's very true. And I think I took a class on personal branding a while ago, like when I was in college. And at that time, I learned about personal branding and how it impacts. Can you share with us some of the benefits that you have seen and the lives that have transformed when people just started looking into their personal branding?
Peter, do you want to start?
Sure, why not? I think personal branding is critical. It either opens or closes doors for you. And it is one of the least understood concepts in marketing. I think that we're taught to market ourselves from an early age as commodities. So we go around life showing our resumes and our experience and our attributes, which all of them are private label. They can be copied, they can be imitated. And the thing that no one can actually copy is how you do things, but we're not taught to think that way. I have personally seen in my practice many people who are brilliant in their careers, who are fantastic professionals, who have achieved a lot of things. They have become CEOs of companies. And yet, when you ask them, tell me about yourself, they cannot articulate in 5 seconds what their brand is about. And they always go back to I was, I did, I've been, and things that nobody really cares about, quite frankly, because they're not in the context of the need states of the audience. So this personal branding knowledge can close doors for you or can open opportunity for you. So it is critical. And I think that this is the 21st century, and the value of personal brands is paramount these days, especially in this digital age that we're living. I don't know, Sima, what do you think?
Sure. You know, at a very tactical level, if you work for someone else, a personal brand can serve to raise your visibility in the organization, in the enterprise, and deliver or open doors for opportunity to stretch and grow within that company. Part of the reason I get hired by corporations is for retention of top staff, and they need to learn how to market themselves. Similarly, if you're in sales or you own your own business, being the go to, top of mind, being invited to the conversation, right of first refusal before I've looked left or right. for exactly what it is you do. I mean, that's cash in the bank. You know, a million years ago, I was a high-tech marketer. It's a slow, complex sale, B2B sale. And I see people as business to business sales. And if you think about what that bluebird is that might fly in your window, land on your shoulder, and be the ideal opportunity, even if you haven't yet imagined it. So to serve on a board or be invited to speak or write a column or another job, a promotion, an opportunity to compete, whatever that is in alignment with your potential, your capacity. If you're invited to that opportunity, it means your personal brand precedes you.
So, what are the specific ingredients of personal brand? What should one
Um,
look into?
I think a personal brand is not different from a commercial or corporate brand. In my practice, I have seen that it comes down to three big elements. One is being distinctive, not unique. You don't need to be unique, but you need to be distinctive. And I'll explain a little more about that. You also need to be relevant. So your brand has to matter to some people. In absence of that relevance, it's an avoid. And it doesn't matter how good you are, nobody will care. And the last thing, it has to be purposeful. So that drive, that energy that powers you in good and bad times, that is what sustains the other two. So those three elements, knowing how to be relevant, how to be distinctive, and how to be purposeful, when those three are combined, then you have the elements of a personal brand that is very difficult to forget. It's very difficult to ignore. And then you get all of the channels of communication that this day and age offers us, like digital platforms and everything else. But as long as you have those three, you can reflect that across everything you do and say. And in those, as I said, I have seen a very direct correlation between that and in the personal branding and in the corporate branding. And there is also a very direct correlation between that and value. The stronger people believe you have a powerful brand, the more you separate yourself from the pricing discussions or from the generic attributes discussions. And then you become a category of one. So there is a lot of there's a lot of depth in understanding those three things. It's very simple, in my opinion, but it is not easy to do. It takes a little time to develop a powerful statement that includes those three. So that, to me, those are the three fundamentals of a personal brand. I don't know, Seema, what is your take?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Kashif, I made a switch on my audio, so hopefully we don't hear as much echo, but you let me
Yeah,
know.
it's perfect.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. We did test it. I would back up even one step further, and that is so many people I work with haven't put pen to paper to articulate how they want to be known. So there's um, the aspirational exploration of, you know, where your gifts and your talent and your passion collide. You know, I tell the story of being a really young girl and discovering there were more ways to say blue than the word blue when I got that jumbo box of crayons, and discovering my passion for the English language, written and spoken. To this day, I'm a word nerd, self-professed. And so how that's manifested over the years of my career has taken many different twists and turns. But with each of those, you know, paths, I've had to be able to articulate my value. And I agree with Peter, who says, you know, your personal brand value skyrockets when it's strong, but same too in reverse. If you're able to articulate your value, which is often not easily understood by your title, if you can say to what end I do these things for these people to this end, then your personal brand is worthy of me paying greater attention. And we often skip that step.
Okay.
That is so true, and I think if I could build on that, Sima, the something that I have noticed people forget is that brands, personal brands, do not live in shelves or in brand books or
Yeah.
in social media. They live in the minds of the audience. So whatever the audience thinks of you, that's who you are. And the sometimes we forget that we all have a personal brand, and sometimes it is a forgotten personal brand. Sometimes it is hasn't been taken care of for a long time, and therefore we resort to the typical "this is what I do" or "this is what I've done" instead of bringing forward the distinctiveness of how I do things. This is how I solve people's problems. This is how I make you feel like you're gonna get what you want. If you notice the best personal brands, those people who thrive in that space are the ones that focus their value on the benefits that they bring. But the one thing that I think is so usually missed is that if you don't teach people how to think of you, they will make up their own story. And that is unavoidable. They will just take whatever cue they see from you or what you say or what your resume says or what your LinkedIn posts say, and they will make up their own story. So the personal branding, to your question or original question, Kashif, is the process of bringing that, of influencing how people think of you. They will think of you somehow, but if you can influence that through everything you do and say, then that's when you become a powerful brand. So, and that is a habit. I think I have found that it is something that you need to become aware of. One of the big challenges that I have seen in professional life is that we're also used to speaking in we terms. We did this, we accomplished that, we as a team, and that is perfect for certain settings. However, there is a good need of a healthy amount of I of speaking in first person. So I am, I do. This is the benefit I bring for you. This is how I solve your problems. And we're not used to do that. We tend to be a little shy about that. Or when we speak in I terms, then we talk of this is what I can do, and that is generic. So I think that there is a big opportunity. I noticed that there is a big opportunity in professional life to rebuild profiles based on personal branding. So I love this theme. I love this topic.
No, no, definitely, and I can relate to that. Sima, we are hearing echo again, so sorry. So when I was running a marketing agency about 12, 13 years ago, I would go into companies and do their marketing and their websites. And how people related to me was they saw me as a business strategist. They did not see me as a person who had runs a marketing agency and also uh, I don't know if it's at my end or
I was
I
muted,
was
so I
muted, so
probably
I
it was not on
probably
my
it was
end.
not on my end.
Sima, can you please check at your end? Okay, thanks. So the people saw me as a business strategist. And even when I went on my LinkedIn, all the skills that people were recognizing there were related to business strategy. So that was very eye-opening to me that I was not positioning myself as a business strategist, but the clients that I was working with, they were seeing me as a business strategist, and that's what they were acknowledging and remembering me. So in terms of like we talked about some ingredients of the personal brand, what questions should be answered when building your personal brand? Like, is there a checklist that you go through that you answer these 5 questions or 10 questions? And at the end of the day, you would have a personal brand statement.
I'm going to take myself off mute. Do you hear an echo now?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I like to ask people to do an exercise where they list actually on the back of a cocktail napkin. Because when you meet somebody and you want them to understand you, they can't possibly know all you've done, all you
Mhm.
can do, and all that you still yet want to achieve. So if on the back of a cocktail napkin, and I provide them with one, and I put my branding on it, go figure, write down the keywords and phrases by which you hope others know you. I call that whole exercise owning your ellipsis, which is the dot, dot, dot in grammar, literally. The dot, dot, dot that
Mhm.
follows a question I believe we are all asked all the time, which is, Kashif, who do you know who can help me with? Who do you know?
Mhm.
Who in your network has expertise, might be able to within the enterprise? Peter, I'm going on, maternity leave. Who do you think might be able to step up and fill in for me for the next 3 months? That whole idea that in a handful of words and phrases, you have to own share of mind, right? That mental Rolodex. There's a whole
Mhm.
group of people listening too young to know what a Rolodex is, but how we file you away is just the tip of the iceberg. And then over time, as Peter said, marketing is nothing not but consistent messaging across all the touch points. I can get to know more of you. I remember the last corporate job I had. I remember the day I was let go because we were acquired. I was a redundant headcount. And I've heard that phrase a few too many times. And the very next day, going to a conference with 500 other marketers. And the first woman I met asked me who I was and what I did. And I could barely answer the question. I said, "It's funny you ask. I just got laid off." And she got in my face, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I hadn't even yet thought about it. And I stammered and stumbled, and it was embarrassing because I was a brand marketer, an
Mhm.
accomplished, award winning message crafter around high tech. And I couldn't tell the stranger what I wanted to do. And she said, "If you can't name it, you can't claim it." And she bounced off. And I saw her at the end
Mhm.
of the conference and I chased after her and I said, I figured it out. I know what I want to name. I know what I want to claim. And she looked me again in the eye and said, "I'm sorry. Have we met?" I was humbled and embarrassed. But it's an important lesson that we have to continue to remind people how we want them to think of us, who we are, what we do, what makes us special. And if you can't be memorable in a simple, "Hey, who do you know? Who, dot, dot, dot," then I would dare say you're overthinking it.
That is so true. And I build on that? I think that um, we're not alone. I think we marketers are the worst. Many of my clients who are senior marketers or CEOs with a background in marketing, they freeze when I ask them, "Tell me about yourself." As soon as I ask them, "Tell me about your business," it's beautiful. They are articulate. They talk about the vision, the how interesting their future is. But as soon as I say, "Tell me about yourself," people don't usually take the time to do that. And I think it is because we want to say so much and it's so complex, as opposed to trying to do the homework to have a statement. I think the people think it is easy, but by my own experience and by consulting a number of people who try to do this, getting a statement in 6 words about you or under 5 seconds is very difficult, and it takes weeks to do it. It doesn't come through in one evening, and it is because it has to go deep. Your question, Kashif, was what do I ask people? How do they get started? In my opinion, I think it has to start with the relevance aspect of the brand that I discussed in the model that I described. The first thing is to ask who your audience is. Who are you trying to talk to? Because your brand is not going to be for everyone. Just like any commercial brand is not universally appealing, your brand is not going to be universally appealing. It has to be universally understood,
Mhm.
but you have to think about that group of people. Now, the first the first thing I ask people to do, the first item on the list is define your audience based on a psychographic profile. Usually we talk about, oh, I'm talking to leaders, managers, professionals in verticals like this and this. And that is really just scratching the surface because demographics don't help. They're really, they're overvalued. And psychographics, which is what is the mindset of people that I want to influence, that is critical. What are their desires, wants, needs, dreams, aspirations? Because brands, that's what they do. They cater to that aspirational need state that people want. I mean, people usually do not buy products. I mean, they buy the need states associated with having that product. And then the product only provides the reason to believe. But everything else, all the emotional payload of the brand can only start when we know exactly how people feel and how people, what are their aspirations. And when you have that figured out, then you become relevant. Those are the first steps to become relevant. So in articulating that part, in saying I am talking to people who think or feel or fear or aspire dot dot dot, then all of a sudden you have a broad audience. And this is so critical because in the better defined this is, the bigger it is. Like you can find people who share values across different age groups. So I don't know if you've noticed how a lot of people say, "Well, are you talking to 25-year-olds to 35-year-olds?"
Mhm.
As if that meant anything. That doesn't really mean anything. That you can have um, more common ground between a 20-year-old and a 65-year-old because of the things they aspire to, and that is much more powerful than their age group. But we don't take the time to do that. So as it relates to personal brands, this is very serious stuff.
Okay.
The better articulated it is, the more powerful and the better hook for your personal brand. So that's step one. In my, I have
So,
other steps, but just doing this one, I think it takes a good amount of effort.
Can
okay.
I just take a
Sure.
different attack at that same thing? I'm going to come from a very different, less um, less profound approach, if you will. Um, think about think about this. You know, my dad was a World War II vet, and he used to say, "It's a small world, kid, but I'd hate to paint it." You know, we used to play the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon game. We know statistically we're more 2.5 to 3.5 degrees of separation now from one another. And I like to remind audiences that while, you know, I'm speaking to Peter and he may never ever buy anything from me, ever. But the likelihood that he knows someone today or will meet
Mhm.
someone tomorrow, a year from now, 10 years from now, who needs exactly what I do is very high. So, yes, know your target buyer persona and the profile and all of that, but also make sure the average Joe can understand at a high level. Just last week, I did a live workshop online for an association that I had previously never heard of. I was referred to the executive director by someone I knew. I mistakenly thought it was someone I knew from the Vistage community. Kashif, I know you speak to
Mhm.
Vistage as well. Um, Turns out it was someone who heard me speak 13 years ago when I was just getting started. Now, I like to think I was good then, but we all know I wasn't that good. That he wrote my name down somewhere and said, I will never forget her. But rather, he remembered loosely what I talk about because I stay gently in his stream on brand. You know, he doesn't have to get the depth and he's not a
Mhm.
buyer, but he's a referrer. And that's almost as important, if not more so, depending on day.
Yeah.
That is so important. Sima. If I can build on that, I love the way that you put it together, because the if people can understand your brand, maybe they don't relate to it, but they can understand it, they can help you. And I have seen that in networking. I network with hundreds of people, like I don't know how many. Um, and I say, how can I help you? That's usually the first thing that comes out of my mouth. And if I understand exactly what their brand is, then I can help them. I can repeat what they're saying. I can relay it to others, even if it doesn't apply directly to me. And what you said, Sima, is crucial. It has to be. Uh, I echo that. I usually say that my brand has to be as simple, so simple that my grandmother can understand it, and she is not a marketer by any stretch. So, but it is true. Like the simplest words and the simplest articulation will go a long way. I was thinking about one more element that it's a trap for people before they can actually get started with those questions, Kashu. Um, it is that we are so in love with wearing our corporate cloak. And the corporate cloak is our company name and the position we have in that company. And that is great. I'm not saying don't use it. It's okay to use it, but you also need and you better have a nice shirt underneath as well. And that shirt is your personal brand. Because at one point the corporate brand will be gone. And in this day and age where we can expect to move, like a new professional can expect to go through maybe 8, maybe 10 different companies in their lifetime, in their work lifetime, that's the only thing that you will carry with you, the personal brand. The corporate cloak will you will take a new one every so many every so uh, every few every so often. And it is important that the personal brand continues to be clear so that people can help you. So
And when you just to clarify a little bit, when we were talking about the behaviors and the traits of an individual, you were talking about that what your audience, who your audience are, and what are their aspirations, their values, and fear. For a personal brand, to me, it's that I would be looking into myself. That okay, what are my values? What are my aspirations? What are my fears? What are my strengths? What I'm passionate about? And the summation of all those, I would put it out as this is my personal brand. Now it's up to the audience whether they relate to that personal brand or not, and they would follow it through and relate to me. Otherwise, I would find audience where the values are matched, where the strengths that I bring to the table or my past accomplishments that would match to what other people are looking for. Is that right clarification?
That was a question to Peter, right?
Yes, Peter. Mhm.
yeah, yes, I think so. Yeah, I think that I was thinking about your articulation. I really liked it. I think yes. The only thing I would add to that is that once that you put together your values, aspirations, desires, skills all together, the only thing I would add is that you need to elevate those to benefits. Because
Mhm.
if they only stay at a level of attributes, of capabilities, of brand purpose, all of those pieces are important, but they are usually not expressed in ways that can become benefits. So if you think about the mindset that you're talking to and the aspirations and the wants of your audience, and then you can, and if you think about yourself, and then you can ladder up those attributes and all of the things that you described to benefits that match that need state, that's when your brand becomes unstoppable, because then there will be so much relevance and so much uniqueness, and more than uniqueness, distinctiveness of you. They will not be able to forget that for their needs it's about Kashif, or it's about Sima, or it's about Peter, or it's about whoever, because that eliminates all of the generic attributes. So for example, you talked about being a strategist, right? So being a strategist is an attribute. It's like saying this brand of detergent has compound X. Fantastic. But it doesn't
Yeah.
tell me the benefit. When you say, I make things happen this way for you who need things done this way and aspire this, then all of a sudden the questions about the attributes become only reasons to believe. So you would say, I make things happen because I am a great strategist. Okay, now I'm getting it. I will solve your problems, Peter, because um, I know how to do it like nobody else. My how is so different that you cannot compare it. And by the way, you cannot price it and not even compare prices with anyone else because this is a distinctive value. So that is what I'm describing is the ideal situation, but we can all get on the wagon to get there. I think the better we do this, we separate ourselves from the discussions on generics, which is where most professionals are struggling. I mean, most professionals say, "Yeah, I'm a strategist, or I'm a planner, or I am a marketer." Nobody cares.
Hmm.
What they care is about my problems. When you start talking about my problems, they will listen. Okay, tell me more. Tell me more about my problems, about my desires, and that's where your brand becomes so powerful. I like this the example um, of coffee shops in that industry lately. I mean, the only reason why I gladly pay $5 for a latte, which probably would cost me cents to make, or maybe a buck somewhere else, is the only reason why I pay that extra is because all of the promise that I get from brands like Starbucks or Second Cup here or whoever or Tim Hortons, I am buying into that. I'm in that need state and they're promising something and they're delivering to that promise. So they can take away my $5. I don't will ever even discuss if they're giving me the best coffee or not. Probably, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who cares? The actual experience of the brand is what I am paying for. And I apply that to personal brands. I mean, as long as you deliver to that promise and that you create that sense of accomplishment, that sense of fulfillment of that desire, then it's good. Because one thing that I have found, and I don't know if you found it, Sim, as well, is that people, when they hire you or promote you or elevate you to the highest role in one organization, it is not because of you being great. It is because you're solving a problem that's valuable for them. So you hire someone because they're actually going to satisfy a specific need for them. And that's why you can see that sometimes people do not make decisions based on attributes. They make it based on an emotional sense of this person is going to do what I need them to do because this is important to me. We don't spend enough time thinking about what is that important thing to for those people. And that is part of the research that the intelligence that as any brand your brand has to do. I mean, this is very narrowly defined as a job search for one employer, but
Hmm.
in general anyone in that mindset could be your target, and they have specific emotional needs.
Yeah. In this age, when we look at personal branding used to require like a lot of time. You basically build your life, and that's what you get at the end of the day. That okay, this is what you have accomplished. These are the things that you have done, and that's what your personal brand is, and people will start recognizing you for that. In today's age, it's very different because of digitization of everything. Like I go on a Clubhouse and start doing some rooms over there and other things. Within like a few weeks or months, I may have over 100,000 followers, and people would start recognizing me with that. What are the elements that you would say that people should be cautious of, and how they should utilize the technology available these days in building their personal brand?
For for some of the people I work with, it's not a tech play at all. It's the ability to lean into a fast moving, heated conversation in the office, hit pause and insert their expertise to make space for someone else to contribute. It's executive presence, gravitas. It is the ability to communicate written and on the fly, extemporaneously in the hallway. It's the degree to which they're intra networked within the company. Because if they don't know anybody, they certainly can't have a
Mm-hmm.
personal brand that's worth noting. A lot of times when I'm presenting for a client who's concerned with retention, the only tech we talk about is one, complete to the best of your ability the internal HR system, the HRIS system, where you're supposed to fill out your background and your whatever in case somebody else in the organization looks you up there. But more often than not, we look one another up on LinkedIn, the go to. And what progressive companies are beginning to understand is when their talent looks terrific online, it makes filling the talent funnel that much easier. High potentials want to work with like-minded rock stars. So we don't really get into how much time are you spending on Clubhouse or your e-newsletter or your content strategy. It's the offline personal branding. So much of it pivots on the degree to which you're capable and willing to share that which you know, and to then help your teammates do the same as you move sort of up that ladder, so to speak. With respect to the tech, I think some people who know me might be surprised to learn I'm a late adopter. Honestly, I have an early invitation to Clubhouse. I've been bouncing in and out, but to add that block of time and that commitment to the lineup I already have means giving something else up, means shifting
Mm-hmm.
my priorities. And quite frankly, until your Clubhouse followers are proven to pay the mortgage, I'm happy for you to sort it out. And then you tell me it's worth my time. And I'm quite confident when I hit the floor, I'll be able to hit it running. But I think sometimes the average professional, the consummate expert, gives too much. Remember when we used to measure our clout with a
Mm-hmm.
K and our cred with a K? And people would boast about their clout number. I'm like, well, my
Mm-hmm.
bank account's bigger than yours. Which would you rather have? I'm being facetious, but just want to make my point about where I stand on some of those opportunities, if you will. I mean, we're still not using Medium to its fullest. And then we can think about the SEO impact of repurposing content verbatim across multiple streams and how that does impact us negatively from a
Mm-hmm.
search ranking, but maybe lift us up from a popular view. It gets hairy fast. So I'm a wait and see kind of gal. Sorry.
What are your thoughts, Peter, on this?
Um, well, I think the tech is always important. It was 20 years ago, and it will be 20 years from now. And it is, for me, it is basically the tactics of the time of the day. I think that once that you have your personal brand statement complete, there is a bridge that people usually forget to do. And that is bringing your personal brand statement in a code that people can understand, and those are verbal codes and visual codes. And that takes a little bit of time because that is the point of connection with how people speak, how people think, how people interpret signs. So when you are able to put it in codes, then all of a sudden, for example, if you have taglines, headlines, copy style, key points that express your value, you can use them across everything you say. You can use them, for example, across all your social media, but it's always coded in ways that you repeat over and over, and they come back to you to reinforce how you want people to think about you. And the visual codes are more or less the same. If you use someone who specializes in graphics in order to make that come to life, that's even better. But that is, as I said, a tactic. And then that can go into a number of technical aspects. So I am a big fan of technology. I am also kind of like a intermediate adopter. I don't go for. Sometimes I do. I just jump um, and I do things, but for the most part, I wait for a little while. But I think it's important to use them as channels. So the way I think about it is my audience mostly on LinkedIn? Okay, great. So I'm going to use every possible channel that LinkedIn has so that my brand can reach to them. Or are they in Facebook? Then it's a different mindset. So with the same brand positioning, you use different codes that are appropriate for each one of those spaces. Or are they in some
Yes,
other place?
and it's not just your clients, it's your referral sources. So
That's
if
right.
my high school friends are willing to, some 35 years later, make an introduction to me at the organizational level because I pop up in their feed talking about how excited I am to be on Kashif's show tonight, they're not a buyer, they're just simply a referral source. And again, I give them a lot more weight than I think the average bear does. And the three of us own businesses, we're consultants, but people who need personal branding aren't just in business for themselves. I mean, they literally heads down trying to make a career for themselves in an industry or a line of business, and their name's not necessarily on the door. So again, the tech might be part of a bigger picture job search, but to what end do they need to be like an international SME to get the next job in the high tech community in the backyard of Chicago? So I think there's measures there that need to be taken into account.
Is it ever too late to start building your personal brand?
Yeah. I'm laughing because you did send us a list of like topics we might explore today, so you didn't surprise us cold, and I always appreciate that. And one of the questions was, who out there has a personal brand that maybe, you admire or evolve? And I always enjoy rediscovering people I think I knew. Like, for example, um, way back when, I'm dating myself, but Sarah Palin's daughter, Bristol Palin, was on Dancing with the Stars, something like that.
Mhm.
And I remember reading her bio, and it didn't even mention her mom. It was like I was like, wait, what? Isn't this is the girl from the news? And I was thinking about how people rebrand and pivot their brand boldly. Like I would, so somebody that I've been kind of thinking about writing a piece on, Peter, don't take my idea, is Michael Strahan. Now, many of us know Michael Strahan from football, right? But I
Mhm.
just Googled him, like for fun. Quickly Google Michael Strahan, and it says Michael Anthony Strahan is an American television personality, journalist, and former professional
Mhm.
football player who spent 15 years with the New York Giants. That's his top line. He's a television personality and journalist. And now I'm reading his Wikipedia. And he was the host of the $100,000 Pyramid. And he had guest acting spots in Charlie's Angel and Magic Mike. And he's in Good Morning America. I wake up every morning, get my news from Michael Strahan. And if that isn't a so the answer is no. It's never too late. I literally cannot figure out what degree Michael got at college because I don't want to dig that deep. Like I don't really care that much, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't journalism. Might be
Mhm.
wrong, but good on Michael Strahan, and let that be a lesson to all of us.
Mhm. And we
I
look
love
at
that.
when we are looking at this generation now, like upcoming generation, and it is said that they would have about seven professions, not just seven jobs, seven professions. So
Right.
they are gonna jump from one profession to another. And So I would ask, how do you maintain your personal brand when you are changing industry, when you are changing profession? What are the core elements of that personal brand?
I think, let me take a stab at that. I think that you can and you should, because let's say if you change industries, if you change completely, there is one of the three elements: distinctiveness, relevance, and purpose, that stays throughout in as a fundamental, and purpose is at the core. So if your purpose is strong, it will manifest itself to support the relevance and the distinctiveness. That doesn't change. I mean, you can change probably the audience a little bit. You can change the way you articulate your benefits, but at the end of the day, purpose doesn't change. And this is in my practice the step that people spend most time, and that gets more emotional for people. I mean, for senior leaders who that I've worked with, that I'm working with, getting into purpose goes deep into down to the bone of why do you do what you do? Why are you a marketer? Why are you in business? Why do you get up in the morning?
Hmm.
What keeps you here?
I
And
agreed with everything Peter said up until now.
yeah.
Up until now, I'm gonna say opposite opinion.
Yeah.
You can do a 180, and in hindsight, you can talk about a, a thread that you pull through the story. We are always retelling our story such that it leads to the present moment. There's always room for edit. There's always room for evolution. But to say that in my early days, my purpose, my mission on earth is in total alignment with where I am now as a senior leader, a global thought leader. Oh, come on. There's no way. No, on paper, we can make it look that way. But I think to tell people that it doesn't really change limits the thinking. I know for a very long time, I defined myself as a corporate marketer. I never even thought that marketing people was a thing. I didn't know you could get paid to speak. I had blinders on, big ones.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to go up that ladder. And with each rung that I climbed, I worked for larger companies. I made more money, and I got further and further away from my real passion, which I hadn't even yet discovered. And it evolves to this day. So I like to give people a lot of pencils and erasers to shift the story as they go. And a lot of people have a side hustle that over time becomes their ticket to freedom. Becomes, I'm a lawyer by day, a jazz singer by night, and at one
Hmm.
point I'm a recovered lawyer who now graces, stages around the world, award-winning jazz, whatever, whatever. So I don't know. I'm just gonna leave that one out there for debate.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I think that this the
You
the
can't agree with
expression
me
of
when I'm
that changes.
disagreeing with you.
Well, I don't think I don't
I'm
think that that
teasing.
is entirely in disagreement, because when I hear you speak, at the end of the day, there are the roots that you come with. Those are the ones that don't change. You may not see them. Like, for example, I'm going to use my own personal example. Peter at age 15, 20, 35, 40 has evolved in the way that it's expressed. And I have discovered things that I did automatically before. Only when people saw my blind spots and say, well, you actually are consistently doing this. You are consistently doing this other thing. I hadn't seen it, but it was there. So and that
Sure.
was fueled by my convictions and
I'll
values.
buy that.
Those ones haven't changed.
Yeah.
And that I've changed industries 4 times in my career. And as I look back at those, what makes my personal brand today may be expressed in a different way as it was 30 years ago, but the core continues to be the same. The things I don't like, the things that I am not good at, continue to be kind of the same. The things that I am good at continue to be the same, or my preferences. So I think that you can write always a better version of your personal brand statement. That is always something you will never finish. I think
I'll
that you
call
will.
out something
Mhm.
Peter said as a tip to anyone listening, and that is never ever articulate anywhere that I can find it that which you never want to do again. Because the minute you tell somebody you have done it, can do it, the attraction is there that you want more of that thing. So, by way of example, early in my marketing career, I had to spend a lot of time doing market research. And may I add, that often required going to libraries and using dial up
Mhm.
modems. I know I'm dating myself, but can you fathom? And not only did was I horrible at it, I hated it, and I'm not sure which came first. But a recruiter once told me, "Don't say you have done market research unless you want to keep doing it." And I've done that in my career very intentionally to just not talk about um, that which I'd rather stick a hot poker in my eye than ever do again.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to just go back to your question of is it too late? I have three words for anyone who is thinking about doing a personal brand for themselves. Do it now and keep doing it. One of I had a great experience with a couple of clients who were in the process of doing their their personal brand, and they were actually on the edge of retirement. And you would say, well, why do you need a personal brand at that stage? I mean, you're probably not going to go and look for a job again. But they found that their new their next 10 years needed to reflect who they were in the most authentic way. So they found and they made decisions based on this understanding of who they're talking to, who they want to do good to. I mean, that could also be one way to think about your audience. I mean, you want to leave a legacy for whom? It's going to be for all humanity for sure, but there is a core audience who will benefit from your legacy. And how are you going to express that value to them? So, two of them actually made very difficult decisions that turned out to be very good decisions based on understanding what their personal brand is and being able to articulate it in 6 words. One of the things that people usually think is that the elevator speech is still a thing, and it is, but no one has 30 seconds to listen to that. People only have barely 6 seconds to give you full attention. So by doing this exercise, they were able to create something that they're now using to create that legacy beyond their working years or their official working years. So my advice to anyone is do it now. Keep doing it. Make it a habit because this is not something that comes natural. This is an acquired habit. You need to keep thinking about your audience all the time. You need to start keep thinking about your codes, how you code your message all the time, and then you need to figure out and gauge if you're relevant and distinctive or not. So my advice would be do it
So,
now.
all right. So let me ask you, both of you, what is your personal brand? What is the statement that you use?
Oh, I'll go first if you like. If there's one thing I'd like you to remember of Peter Rodriguez, is that I wake up sleepy brands.
All right. Sima.
I don't necessarily ascribe to the 6 word limitation. I'm more somebody who wants to pique your interest, open a dialogue, and position myself in your memory. I call that acronym POP. And I don't call it an elevator pitch, I call it an airplane pitch because we don't talk to
Mhm.
strangers in elevators anymore. What I normally say is along the lines of I help people generate demand for who they are and what they do. And I've yet to meet somebody that doesn't want to be in greater demand. Now,
Mhm.
I can shorten that and say I help people market themselves. So that's my 6 and under. But it takes a minute I like sort of a slower, I help people generate demand. Like I just like the cadence of the idea of being in demand. And then depending on who I'm talking to, I can quickly pivot to the value, to the organization, to the institution of that as well, be it sales or retention or recruitment. So that's kind of like my lead in. What's yours, Kashif?
Mhm. I help people achieve their potential.
Nice.
That's what I do, day in, day out. Whether it's they are individuals or they are organizations.
Indeed.
So, all right. So, as we are coming on the hour now, I would like to ask you the last question about what's your biggest piece of advice for getting ahead in building your personal brand?
Um, I'll take a stab at that. I think what experience is teaching me is that don't wait until you need it. That would be the biggest piece of advice for getting ahead. I find a lot of people who come to me with they want to build a personal brand right away because they are looking for a new job or they were just let go and they want to stand out. You're not going to do it in a week or 2 weeks. It's going to take time, especially if you don't know yourself and you don't know your audience. It's going to take time. So do it while you don't need it. I mean, you need it, but while you feel you don't need it.
Yep.
While you are in your everyday life, when you're running your business, when you're running a company, whatever it is that you do, that's a time when you should take maybe an hour a week to reflect on deep, mindful questions that get you the insight on your audience, that get you the insight of you, and that help you build that connection between the need state of your audience and the unique value proposition from you. So don't wait until you need it. I think this doesn't work in a rush. I've seen many people try to do it in a rush and they end up with statements that are a page long. Nobody has time for that. And I echo your airplane pitch. I have my escalator pitch. I mean, whatever I can say when I meet you in the mall and you're going up an escalator, I'm going down an escalator. I say, "Hey, how's it going?" Yeah, I'm the brand igniter. I wake up Sleepy Brands, and then you say, "What is this guy talking about?" At least you know that I'm in marketing and I do something either good or bad to brands. And
So my
then
advice
hope.
would be I'm going to take the opposite end of the spectrum rather than spending an hour in deep reflection and all the smart sage counsel from Peter. If you just want to get into tactics, if you just want to begin experiencing the doing, the enrolling of others into the brand you think you want to build, then practice consistent messaging across touch points. We believe that because we've said it once, it's known. And it is in the repetition of the simplest of messages, perhaps even those key words, that helps others understand at a bare minimum what we know, what we're excited about. And people are excited to work with people they think they know and can like and can trust. And it's that consistency when I meet you, when I look you up online, when you hand me your business card, is your name, literally your physical name, the same in your email signature, your business card, your LinkedIn profile, and on the badge you're wearing, and on your Zoom. It can't be four different names and build a singular brand. So that consistency and the repetition of even the smallest of ideas can get people on your page. It's sticky, it's sexy. We wake up that way. We just need to let other people know what we are
Mhm.
capable of doing.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you again. Thank you for a great discussion and providing some pointers towards how to build a personal brand. To me, the personal brand is definitely your legacy. As I started this meeting with, that when you leave the room and what people remember about you, that's your brand. whether it's good or bad.
or what they know about you or think they know
Yep.
about you before you enter.
Yeah,
Right? Your
definitely.
digital footprint precedes you.
Yes. Everybody you meet, they are possibly going to Google you and find out everything about you, the footprint that you have left on the internet. And so the personal brand is very, very much like personal in a way. It's about your values, it's about what you think you are. And because at these days, it's very easy to identify fake, and people can figure out easily. And though even fake profiles can be built overnight as well, as we were talking about like Clubhouse or any other tool that is out there, you can build your audience, but people will figure out whether you are genuine or not. So
Well, you're the
authenticity
real
is the
deal.
number
This has
one.
been great.
Yeah. So authenticity is definitely the key to building your personal brand. And that's where you would have the consistency. Yes, we all are work in progress. So you are going to evolve. The 15-year-old of you would be different than 20-year-old of you, would be different than 40-year-old of you. So you are going to build as yourself as you gain more knowledge, gain more understanding, create more self-awareness about yourself. But it's the time frame that you spend learning about yourself, and that's what you realize, that when you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, that you were
It
talking
never
about
stops.
earlier, it never stops. That Peter was talking about, that he was working with somebody who was at the retirement age, and then they decided to do personal branding. So personal branding is basically figuring out who you are, how you communicate your values, and everything else. So thank you very much, Peter. It's a pleasure having you, Seema, here. And I know we all are in 3 different time zones, as Peter is in Toronto, Seema is in Chicago, I'm sitting in Southern California here. But we are able to do it. And thank you again for being on my show.
You're
Thank you very much
dynamite.
for the
Thank you
invitation.
so much, Peter. This was great. Thanks for letting me disagree, even when we all know we totally agreed.
It's always
Yes.
additive. I love it. I love the discussion. So it's a pleasure meeting you, Seema, and thank you, Kashi, for inviting me to this forum. I truly value it, and I hope that your audience has benefited in some way from our discussion, and it has sparked some ideas and some curiosity about their personal brand, because it's very, very important for both personal and professional success. So,
All right.
See everybody online. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
thank you.